institutional theory speaks to important bridge work between structures for community values preservation and institutional legal frameworks. Juliet mentions her illegal language and recent findings at a conferences highlighting legal importance of CFCs and DAOs. Hence, in this context, was our realization in the unique in-between space oral legal mechanisms can provide. Guys have any comment?
Other than I understand that paragraph.
Yeah. I think we can definitely agree that we might need some a description of like the institutional theory.
Yeah, I can create. Yeah, I can create a index of any of these words. I have it already in my legal framework, so I can provide that. And then Harold may want to look over it to give his analysis of how it ties in with the oral code of conduct, because I think that's really what's key here.
So let's move on. A functional two-row wampum reference for our consensus processes. This also means active matrilineal native dialogue in our community and COC. This native context ensures that our social and ecological due diligence is built directly into our consensus processes as an applicable legal point of reference. This also speaks to functional use rather than a mere mentioning of direct native language, not to mention the historical precedent for oral constitutions, the sustainability therein, and internationality and internationally accepted jurisprudence for symbolism, that is wampum belts, the accompanying traditional oral laws. This oral tradition is even referenced in modern legal written documents, giving us a complete picture for our own unique on and off chain legal framework possibilities. I think this point like mentions the great law piece and the functions around consensus within the great law piece and the client system as well. So and this being like an integral part of the COC. So that part I think is really important when it comes to references.
I also will say that there's clear legal reference in case law, both not just in the United States, but internationally, of the oral agreements and the binding nature of oral agreements.
I think also like with the Discord environment, and maybe even like in the future, maybe a console DAO environment of chat, and also like having some sort of a witness, someone bearing witness to such agreements, and would also reinforce that kind of these kind of agreements, and also the protocols itself. There's the protocols that we develop for such agreements might not might but must provide some sort of guards against corruption and this sort. I think this might take us to the current conversations around journeys and see and having like collective accountability built into the system. I think this this is definitely to me is a big part of the conversation around consensus and the native dialogue. Yeah, that helps. That's how it. Hey, dude.
Hey, y'all. Good to see you. Sorry I'm late, y'all. Sorry I missed you yesterday, but it's good to see y'all getting down. Hopefully, I didn't miss too much of y'all getting into this document. But yeah, I was excited to get it across to you guys. But it's good to see you. Sorry I'm late, y'all.
No, not at all. Not at all. We know you guys like stuff. That's okay. Take care of your family.
Thank you.
We're actually almost at the end of the document, Harold. And we had like a few questions, and I think we're still fresh. These questions are still fresh, so I can stop reading and provide you guys like give you guys Juliet and Hero like an opportunity to ask Harold's questions or about what he's written.
Hi, Harold. Is it hot there?
Yeah. We're coming up on some hot days too. Some real hot. Yeah.
It's like 90 here, so I know it's much hotter there.
We're coming up on triple digits soon.
So going to the paragraph that we read through, it's the one under the headline is issue proposal, and then it talks about the NFTs and the intertwining collective symbolism and oral recitations via community NFTs. And I think the part that I don't understand is the next sentence, which is emphasizing the ability to read and orally recite what the symbolism represents as an actual legal point of reference. And I think I'm getting something of what that means. Those what is it? 5 words, actual legal point of reference, because you repeat it down below too when you talk about the binding nature of oral agreements. In the whether you're talking about the Great Law of Peace and how that has international significance. But if you can we talk about that particular paragraph?
Yes. Thank you, Connie. I'm glad you guys caught that. You know, it's an interesting overlap, right, with the usage of with NFTs. In that, you know, for myself, I'm always correlating wampum belts, right, and this traditional symbolism, right, that gets tied into council processes or tied into oral law recitals, right. The ability to read the wampums, right? And so with the wampums in one of our recent sessions with the Longhouse, I think Hero was there, the Longhouse emphasized something that maybe hadn't clicked before, even though we've heard it before, which is the symbolism of the wampum belts and the limits there and the boundaries of symbolism versus what is legally valid, which is only always oral tradition, right? So even not only is written not ever legal in the matrilineal protocols, but not even symbolism is legal without the capacity to read that symbolism, right? And so that's what I was speaking to, something that we could maybe achieve with our own, community usage of NFTs, amongst many other ways, right? But this could be one of the, one of the more static ways that we can bring it into the legal framework, right? Um, yeah. But I did want to run it by y'all and see what you guys think of it. It's one of the more exciting things that came up when drafting that. So I'm glad you guys caught it. Yeah.
So I think we talked before, and I'm sorry I wasn't at the meeting, but I didn't know about it. I'm looking forward to the actual replay when we get that. So looking at talking about the wampum belts, and I think that one of the things that we discussed, which you also mentioned here, is the two rows and that in between the two rows, and that is part of both symbolism, but actual part of consensus in the tradition with the Great Law of Peace when we look at the clans as they get together for general decision making. So that's my understanding from our previous conversations. I think I'll probably have to read this over a few times. So
Yeah. I did make a reference to in between space, right? But there I was just referencing to the legal context in this particular proposal thing. But yeah, we had some really good deep discussions in recent weeks around all of the ways that the in between space is becoming relevant, from Primavera's work to language that we've heard from the Longhouse. And another thing that's important not to forget about the two-row wampum protocols, right? Like they really are these diplomatic extensions, right, for social organization, extensions from the Great Law of Peace, right, which is something that is Five Nations, Longhouse specific, right, specific to the Five Nations Confederacy. But then the two-row wampum protocols are these protocols that got extended as diplomatic tools, and help to confederate even beyond that initial confederation, so to speak. And so the interference, right, and the lack thereof built into those protocols is extremely important, right, for authentic diplomacy between nations, between confederacies even. And so the in between is important, but also that autonomy and that built-in protections against interference, right, is a big part of that. It's some part of the language that we've picked up in some of our consensus protocols. But I bring all that up to mention too. Something that the Longhouse mentioned that we've heard them say before, but maybe it was just vague or unclear at which part of the processes that they're referring to. I've had some discussions with Edith from the Life Givers Nation around similar things as well, in terms of the flow of consensus flow, particularly when it comes to active issues, right? So in previous sessions, we heard from the Longhouse the importance of not having open-ended proposals, and Juliet, yourself, and Hero coming together set a good precedence in that way, but maybe in another way too, right? In the sense that yourself, Juliet, being Wolf Clan, it seems like the Longhouse mentioned a certain sequencing that is important, right, in terms of issues going through the female clan before going into the male clans. And so maybe this is something to consider, before reigniting some of the active issues flows. And, it's very much, not unlike what we're doing here in terms of running this issue by you, trying to getting into a proposal form with with your dialogue, helping it take the shape and whatnot, and so maybe this is something to think about in those autonomous flows, right? There's still a sequencing there that may be a big fundamental thing that we may have missed if not for this last session with the Longhouse as well, where I don't know, we weren't speaking directly about clan flows, but we were speaking to I think just general oral recitations and protocols and things like this. So it may have came up organically. I can't remember exactly, but maybe that would be a point to look to in the recording as well. But yeah, I wanted to mention that along with what you just brought up about the in-between space. I think like I think I went on a big list of the ways the in-between space is relevant in that discussion, and yeah, in this context, I was just speaking to Primavera's language, that context, right? That she's using to play with, and that we can as well. But yeah, yeah. Sorry for the long.
No. Judith had something to say.
I just want to say thanks for that, because actually it kind of all comes into clarity for me after hearing this from you, particularly the Women's Council meeting and talking about these things, which is something that I need to do too. I've started putting that in the Women's Clan, and you guys can see that if you've taken a look. I want to try to get everyone together for a meeting, all the women for a meeting. So this is good to hear all these things from the Longhouse, and I'm looking forward to that replay. So thank you, Harold.
Yeah, no, thank you kindly for coordinating all this. This sounds exciting. Piece to the flows, right? Actually have some engagement in that way. But yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to the replay. I'll probably reach out to folks and see if they have something already that they can give us, maybe hopefully a Zoom link or something, at least, if not at YouTube. So there's some other things too that were mentioned in that session that, to be honest, go over my head, right? Whenever numbers get involved, I'm not the most math inclined, and the Longhouse goes on these long lists of numbers in reference to the council flows and things like this that I think are very interesting. You might remember Hero better than me, actually, if you remember. But kind of, I think it's to the point of how we said every clan has a wolf clan, right? I think it's something to the effect that every clan has every clan, right? Like this is something that we don't know. It's not something that we don't know and haven't talked about, right? Like the dynamic aspects of the clan design. But when thinking about like the coordination flows that you just named, Juliet, I think that may be something of interest for yourself and of course all of us when it comes to coordination efforts. Because it sounds like a means to this, but yeah, things like this, I'm looking forward to the replay as well. And I was there, so yeah, yeah. I'm looking at the document now. I see some comments. Let me see.
So this document is a little bit like kickstarting the thoughts and putting those thoughts on paper, right? And I'm just trying to understand how we're using this document, or we are trying to clarify and understand this, and what next using this document.
Yeah. No, thank you kindly, Hero. Yeah, it's inspired by previous sessions, right, where we talked about this being one of the potential issues in the list of issues now that we have, right, from the code of conduct, conflict resolution stuff, I should say. Some of the things that we want to get done when it comes to an oral recitation, right? We had a few sessions now where we talked about this, and along with the journeys issue, right, that we finally got down on paper and kind of into proposal form, which we should run by. I think Juliet was present in a lot of those sessions, but maybe we have some more dialogue on this if needed, and then I'll be primed to go through the active issues flows, right, through the women's clan and then through the men's clan, and so yeah, this is what I was thinking with this as well, right? Getting something concrete proposal wise that can be taken away from and added to in sessions like this, so that we start to make that list of issues more concrete, and can have some substance to sink our teeth into when it comes to the consensus flow. And so that's kind of the idea behind this document. It's kind of one and the same with that journeys one pager, which could also double as an active issues proposal, right? And the code of conduct or conflict resolution, I should say, work that yourself and Juliet already did. It'd be a list of 3 for issues to go up.
Cool. When Has was doing this, I had one thought, which kind of like branch of this document, I guess, is, and if my understanding of oral recital is correct, is because I haven't been through it or haven't seen anything written or heard much videos or what they actually talk about in the meeting. But it seems to be maybe, say, the code of what they believe, maybe, and the type of things like what they are about, maybe a bit of history about them, and what sort of good behaviors are in their tribe. I don't know. And if that's more or less correct, and I have my thought branching off this document was I'm just trying to think of ways to, at least for myself, to have a very, very simple, super concise, um, 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 say the code of conduct values, but in super, super concise words, such as honesty, uh, supportive, and a list of these kind of words, maybe say 5 to 10 words that symbolizes this place or summarizes this place really well. I think that will that will help me guide towards actions that, uh, you know, um, orally recital this, but also through my action in this place that represent this place well. Um, so yeah, that was one thought that um, just hadn't had a thought about that. Some list of words that really summarizes this place for myself. I don't know whether you want to use it for other people. I have no idea. But if it were like 5 to 10 words that summarizes this place, um, yeah, like ethos, perhaps, or whatever words you want to use. And I think maybe if I'm able to get across to some new people who didn't know this place, um, in some simple words like that, to just give them a taste of what a bit of summary what this place is symbolizing. I don't know, just some thoughts of this code of conduct oral recitation stuff.
Yeah. No. What you're speaking to actually probably was one of the more one of the things I spent the most time thinking about, and I start to go into it a little bit at the end, because to your point, right, that you brought up at the top, the Gayana Rasa de Goa, or the Great Law of Peace, is a recitation of wampums or laws, that are orally passed down, and it very much is almost procedural, right? Like there's a beginning and an end. There's an intro, a body, and a conclusion type of thing. Very much in the indigenous tradition of more cyclical thinking, but very much still the case in terms of, if I'm not mistaken, over 100 wampums that, depending on the person and the mood or the back and forth with the collective at that given point in time, has an indefinite length to however long each wampum is discussed, right? Whether that's for clarity, whether that's for further interpretation of their
Solidity.
Yeah, becoming solid in
No. I was just clarity and solidity, two different languages.
It worked too many ways. Yeah. But so your point is important because I was thinking, okay, these are the kind of things that are, when they're confined to a Discord chat list of rules for like community interaction, like the type of thing that we're used to in code of conducts. While that could, maybe should still be important, but maybe it's just in the words that you described, right? In terms of should be given, right? That we understand that, okay, if there's behavior that isn't conducive to what these words are, then obviously, right, there's a point in law to talk about this at the very least, especially when you talk about belligerent behavior, intentionally harmful behavior, and things like this. And I think those words that like you use would be sufficient, right? But also what I was thinking was, that terms of service effect, right? That we don't want to insert into an oral recitation, and it's not necessary. Doesn't even really starts to make less sense. The capacities for that terms of service effect, where you're just kind of going through a list of rules. That's definitely not what the remote experience, nonetheless, but still experience that I've had with these oral recitations. It's not just a listing of rules. Quite to the contrary, it's a very transformative experience, right? And so I think the same can be achieved, but within this Web3 innovation, open source, commons context. The idea being that we touch on some of the core concepts that we've touched on in these sessions, right? And I list those at the end briefly. And I think that's where a lot of those words that you use can be incorporated if you turn some of those small phrases that I have there bulleted at the end into sentences, right? But also, the Tua Wampum is an extrapolation of the Gayana Rasa Skanago, Great Law of Peace, and this is important, right? That there wasn't nothing like man-made in that sense there, right? In terms of like, something that is loosely connected, but serves mainly, very individual purposes or end goals, right? It was very important for there to be almost like this formulaic approach to extensions of this, right? And I thought of when thinking about this how we're very much an extension of the Tura Wampum in the sense of it's through Tura Wampum dialogue that we get a lot of our system design, right? And there's this phrase from the Longhouse: truth, peace, power, and righteousness, right? Where the truth is related to the cosmology, the peace is related to corn and commons, and all that transformative paradigm shifting stuff that we mentioned comes with autonomous accessibility to commons, right? How it shifts you away from scarcity and towards regenerative abundance, and hence away from competition, hyper-individualism towards mutual aid, support, right? So that's the peace, right? That's how corn is intricately related to peace, how commons is intricately related to peace. And after that, you have power, right? Now, these are all important sequencing, right? You don't get one without the one that comes before the other, right? Much like the Degni Deahada and the Guyana Rasa Skanagoa, right? Or the Great Law of Peace. And so after that, you have power, which is related to these matrilineal protocols or the clan system that we're all learning together, right? Again, all of the sequencing is important for, up until now. Then you have righteousness or balance, right? Which is Gayandawana, right? And so this phrase, and Gayandawana is a part of the 4 sacred ceremonies, right? Which, in addition to like this list of laws, right? The law recitals also include, the recitation of the creation stories and these older cosmologies, right? And so, the idea being for our own code of conduct recitation, we can ensure to try to take that phrase, truth, peace, power, righteousness, as guide rails, right, for ensuring that what we have is an honest extrapolation of what we're learning, directly related to core concepts of what we're learning, without being too loosely connected to to the native dialogue while in this Web3 innovative context, right? And I think a lot of that language we're used to using with each other that you see there at the end, you can see the clan system models, like what we're doing in Journeys in terms of the integration and what we're doing in that one pager so far, as our attempt at models, even if they're not directly consensus decision-making related, models that are attempting at long-term sustainability, right? Attempting at scalability with being plugged into the consensus flows in the ways that it is, right? And so that's some of the hard thinking that I tried to do on what like you were saying, what exactly makes up our oral recitation, right? Without it being terms of servicey or